Elly. Today I'm going to read you a story. The Little Note That Grew. Are you ready? Yeah! The Little Note That Grew. Chapter 1. The Best Number. Miss Fazio loved math. When it came to numbers, she could talk and talk and talk. Miss Fazio was raving about the number 2. She explained how amazing it was. She showed how it could mean half or double or twice or only 2 more or a pair with flair. She drew number pictures on the board and in the air. She cut papers in half. Half is dividing by 2, she gushed. She stacked blocks. Doubling the blocks is multiplying by 2, she gasped. Miss Fazio was so excited about all things that the numbers should do. Miles never noticed Nelson handing Miles a piece of paper. Miss Fazio did not like it when notes were passed in a class. Miles glanced at the piece of paper. It was blank except for a wonky back line. Looked at Nelson, who flashed that tricky grin. Miles drew 2 roundish mountains sticking out from the wonky line. He slipped the paper back to Nelson. Nelson had the paper under the desk for a moment. Miss Fazio stood nearby, explaining the history of the number 2. Nelson listened carefully when he had the chance. He still glanced at the piece of paper, but he didn't see a line and 2 roundish mountains. He saw the letter B. Nelson was amazed. Chapter 2. The Best Letter. Nelson drew over the B with a pen to make it darker. Then he wrote boring under the big B. When Miss Fazio went to the board to explain how numbers double in 2s, Nelson passed the note back to Miles. Miles was excited beyond belief. He was the big B and boring, and his eyes widened. Under the boring, Miles wrote blah, 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 baggy bum. He knew he couldn't keep the piece of paper for himself. He was like a hot potato. He flicked the note back to Nelson as Miss Fazio drew out the lovely curve of the number 2 on the board. Nelson quickly added his own words list. Big belly, blobby biscuits, batty baboons, and burn bats. Nelson looked up. He needed more B words, but his brain had clanked to a halt. His eyes scanned the room for clues. Finally, he added blue and bottle to the piece of paper. And just as Nelson was holding the note back, to Miles, he dropped it. He began to sink at his chair and reached for the note while keep his head upright and pointing straight at Miss Fazio. Suddenly, a white sneaker darted out from under a desk and stole the note away. It was Ruby's shoe. Nelson made crazy silent signs for Ruby to give the note back. Ruby ignored them. She tucked the note under her pencil case. "Eyes to your friend Nelson," said Miss Fazio. Chapter 3 The List Blossoms. As Miss Fazio lists famous people who loved number 2, Ruby read a growing list of B words. She added her own behind, behave, and bed breath brown bear. She handed a note to Ming. Add any B words you can think of, she whispered, and then pass it on. Miss Fazio saw Ruby whispering. Is there a problem, girls? She asked. I was just asking Ming if I could borrow a basic blue biro, fibbed Ruby. Ming hid the note under a math book and soon added her own words. Bogus, bandaged buffalo, back on, and breaking. Bagpipes, she slipped a note to Brooke and Beatrice. And taking a turn, the girls had beautiful Virgin spangles, badges, baubles, and beach bags. They passed a note to Bruno. He wasted no time for writing Bruno in big brown letters. Then he wrote Bale. That's not a real world, said Teeny quickly. Yes, it is, whispered Bruno. No, it isn't, replied Teeny, softly but firmly. It is, Bruno insisted, a little too loudly. Is there a problem, Bruno? Asked Miss Fazio. The class glared at Bruno. Bruno shook his head. No, miss. Well, there's enough about the number 2 for a while, said Miss Fazio cheerily. She looked quite exhausted. Please turn to page 73 of your workbooks and complete 2 pages on your own. As everyone flicked through their workbooks, Teeny grabbed a note from Bruno. She began to write her own words. Badger, batza, and blub blub. Blub blub is not a real word, said Bruno. Yes, it is, snapped Teeny. Bruno, interrupted Miss Fazio, would you like to tell me what you're talking for? I'm sure it's fascinating. Not really, Miss Fazio, replied Bruno, looking down at his workbook. He pretended to write in her workbook, but she really added words to the B list. Banana, Bonnie, Burish, burping, buttons, breaking breeze. Then she passed a note to her heap. Looking up from his workbook, where he wrote Burnick on the sheet of paper. Then he added Boo Book, which was his favorite bird. He knew no one in class would know what a Boo Book was. He was about at least 20 more words when a hand suddenly swept down and snatched the note away. Chapter 4 Busted. What is this? Demanded Miss Fazio, looking at the long list of B words. Is this a note traveling around my class? Rahib did not look up. He simply stared at his workbook and nodded. I expect better from you all, Miss Fazio said, her forehead wrinkling with concern. You know, I don't like notes being passed around in my class. Who started this? No one said a word. Miss Fazio waited and waited and waited for someone to speak. Time stood still. Finally, Nelson spoke. It was me, miss. And thank you, Nelson, for being honest. Eventually, said Miss Fazio. As homework tonight, you are to turn this little note into a story. And the story must use as many bee words as possible. But, cried Nelson, Miss Fossil silenced Nelson by raising her hand. Save the bee words for your story. Now, Nelson, here's the list you started. She had handing back the note. It must be helpful. I can't have my class time being a total waste. Yes, miss, said Nelson. Late that night at home, Nelson brainstormed his story. His brain went berserk thinking of bee words, but once he had begun, he couldn't stop writing until the story was finished. The next day, he dropped the story on Miss Fazio's desk before the school bell rang. Nelson's story, Beware of the Burping Bad-Breathed Brown Bear, by Nelson. Before breakfast, the bad-breathed brown bear began biting big chunks of blackened banana butter and buckwheat biscuits. The biscuits filled his big belly but made him burp. The burps were beastly. Then they banged off the walls and bounced the badger who lives below the bear out of bed. Bear was baking another batch of biscuits when Badger burst in. Stop burping, you big-bellied, baggy-bummed bear, begged Badger. But Bear let out bigger burps than before. Your breath is beyond belief, blabbed Badger. In bounced a blue bird. I smell burning, said Bird. Blah, blah, blah. Barked the bear, who tried to bite Bird. But Bird backed away and bailed. Oh, behave, you batty burping bear, bellowed Badger. Bear burped a bullet into a bottle. Blobby biscuit, said Bear to Badger. Badger shook his head. Well, Buffooey, burped Bear while hanging his big belly. What is my best buddy, a burping bad-breathed brown bear? Thought Badger. Chapter 5, Busting to Know. The class spent a busy day learning about frogs and adverbs. Miss Fossil did not mention Nelson's stories all day. Nelson was busting to know what she thought of it. When the bell rang at the end of the day, Miss Fossil called him over to her desk. Before you go, Nelson, she said, holding a back little smile. She passed him his story. Nelson looked down and saw the best mark he had ever received. B plus 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 plus. And below the mark was Miss Fossil's comment, Betty and bunkers, but brilliant. I've learned that B is almost as interesting as the number 2, said Miss Fossil. Almost, but not